Coming up today on the PHLY Eagles podcast, we are ranking the weapons in the NFL. A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. Good top four, a little shallow. How does that rank around the rest of the league? We'll find out in just a minute. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast, a Monday high noon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman here to talk weapons. A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley. We've been debating who's the wide receiver 3. Did they do enough to buttress that position over the course of the offseason? We're going to find out now how they rank, at least in our minds, around the rest of the league. How you doing, Zach? Happy Father's Day. How was your weekend?
It was great. Excited for the show. Excited for the week ahead of shows. It was a nice weekend. Spent quality time with my family and enjoyed the text exchange with you yesterday to prepare for today's show.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, I had some stuff fermenting. I was
fermenting. Nice.
Brewing. Yeah.
I like that.
I was driving with my son yesterday. He was asleep in the car, and so I was listening to Bob Costas on a podcast, on the Press Box podcast. I'll give credit. First off, Bob Costas is like that's
your guy.
That's my guy. Yeah, he speaks so well. Such great recall. But as he was speaking, I was mapping out different show ideas, and this was something that I had thought about today's show
idea.
Ever since. Well, not ever since, but when I saw T. Higgins re-upped. I was like, we've had this debate about Eagles wide receivers and where they rank. And I'm like, what if we stretch the skill positions?
Bob Costas on that great recall was my dad was talking to him for a story a couple weeks ago, and he got on the phone, and Bob Costas immediately recited like the intro to an old Steve Wolf story. That's the recall that you're talking about.
That is awesome.
There's also Bob Costas.
That is really cool.
The subject of a long-running inside joke between my dad and I. This was probably, it was probably like 10 or 11 years old at some point. My dad took me down to spring training. It had been a great trip. I got this ball with all these different autographs. We met a lot of cool people, and we got to the airport to fly home. And my dad's like, nudges me. He's like, you see who that is? And this is back when you had to check in at the counter, yes. Right? Have I told this story before?
No.
And he's like, it's Bob Costas. It's like, I can go introduce us. We'll go say hi. We go up to the man, and it looks nothing like Bob Costas. It's not Bob Costas, and he's carrying like a Marlboro bag. And so now every time, or often, I'll just be like to a random person, my dad will be like, oh, hey, you know who that is? It's Bob Costas.
That's a good running joke.
So it's good. Yeah.
I like that.
That one's been lasting for about 30 years. Yeah.
It's a Bo bit, one that you keep going back to the well.
Let that one go. Yeah.
Do you know Bob Costas' birthday by any chance?
January 6th.
March 22nd.
Why do you know that?
It's my birthday.
Oh, there you
Share
go.
a birthday with Bob Costas. I was amazed. So, and again, we actually have like a fun show to discuss. But my quick Bob Costas story, he went to Syracuse. I went to Syracuse, and he came back to the radio station I worked at there, WAER, and he was taping a promo. And like, you got to understand, I'm in awe of anyone who's like who does this. But at that time at radio, I would like prepare like crazy for a 30-second read on like giving you the Syracuse lacrosse score, right?
Doesn't sound like you.
and Bob Costas gets up there, and in one take does like the most brilliant promo I've ever seen, and I was mesmerized. So that's my Bob Costas story in person. But we have Eagles news to discuss today. And we have,
big Eagles news.
Yes.
Hit us with it, Stone Cold Newsman.
Yes. So Philadelphia Eagles have announced their reporting date for training camp. Okay, the Eagles.
You want to talk about an A1 headline on a Monday? Ooh, baby, here we go.
The Eagles will report the training camp on July 23rd, Tuesday, July 23rd. That is 5 weeks from tomorrow. Okay, so that's coming up.
Okay,
that means the Eagles will practice, presumably for the first time.
That's too soon, don't you think?
It's never too soon.
It's too soon.
It's never too soon. You hear the clickety clack of the
clickety clack
of you don't hear this anymore, but the sound that I associate with
we don't get much clickety clack.
No, the sound I associate with training camp, and you probably do too. Anyone who has covered training camp at Lehigh University, the sound of them coming out of the field house onto the field, they have the clickety clack of the cleats on, and that's what I associate.
What a poet!
That's what I associate with
clickety clack of the cleats.
If I can make Bob Costas proud. So July 24th, they will be out there, presumably for the first day of training camp. Also, if you want to watch the Eagles at training camp, and you're not one of the selected guests invited at the NovaCare Complex, there's only one date when you can do it. That date is Thursday, August 1st at 6:30 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field. Tickets for that, as well as all the Eagles home games, go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. The tickets for the public practice goes to the Eagles Autism Foundation, I believe. Or I should say the proceeds go to the Eagles Autism Foundation. The tickets for the rest of the games go to the Philadelphia Eagles organization.
Right.
So that's just some dates now. Okay, it can allow us to give a countdown starting tomorrow to when the players report to camp.
How do you feel about the general evolution or devolution, I guess, of, it used to be all open practices at Lehigh, and then they move it to Philadelphia, which makes sense, but they start, it's like we're going to have 4 open practices, and then it's just whittles down, and now it's just 1.
Well, for the fans, I don't like it, right? Like that's obvious. You said it makes sense to have practice at your team facility.
All your stuff is there.
I
all
understand
the sports science stuff. Yeah,
like the romanticism, the nostalgia of being on a college campus. Andy Reid still does it. But logistically, like you said, when you could just consider the working conditions that you get there, even what we know now about like the quality of sleep and things of that nature, recovery, being in a hotel room compared to like a college dorm room, staying on a dorm bed. There's a difference there. Having your food as opposed to being in the cafeteria, even if you bring in your chefs, being in having your weight room as opposed to a college weight room, right? It's just better. I wish there were a way that more people could watch practice at Lincoln Financial Field, like the Giants, or I'm sorry, at the NovaCare Complex. The Giants, for instance, their practice facility is right outside there. It's outside the stadium, so there's parking lots surrounding it. So what they do is like there's people who can come in and watch their practices there. Same thing for the Patriots. So you can be in your facility and people can watch. Just given the fact that the Eagles practice facility is essentially in a South Philadelphia neighborhood.
There's like neighborhood zoning things going on that they can't,
and so there's rules about how many people they can have physically at the practice facility. There's actually a book coming out that gets into the importance of the building, the construction of the practice facility. That's coming out September 24th. It's called The Franchise. Another shameless promotion.
We're going to get at least one an episode.
So I get that. Now, you could say, but the stadium's across the street. They can hold 3 practices there. The actual flow of practice is not as good for them when you're confined to one field compared to when you have 3 fields. So when you're at the practice facility, there's 3 fields there. They can have the offense on one field, defense on another field. They can have the O-lineman over here, defensive lineman over there. When they're at the Lincoln Financial Field, that practice, they can't do it. It's essentially like a scrimmage, a watered-down scrimmage. It sucks for the fans because there's a lot of people who might be in this chat now, who might be watching the replay, who might be listening to this, who grew up going to Eagles practices at Lehigh or even Westchester. And I get it. Like, tickets to football games are expensive, right? I'm fortunate I get to go for work, but I'm taking Reed to the Phillies game tonight. Like, it's really expensive to go to a game. training camp, when it's free to go to, when it's free to attend, it's great for families. So it sucks. I get it. But if you're talking about like the quality of a training camp practice, I understand it. I just wish there was a way more people could watch them at the NovaCare complex.
There you go. All right. So the conceit of the show today, Zach, this is a good idea by you. We've spent a lot of time talking about, who's going to be wide receiver 3. Is it going to be Paris Campbell? Is Johnny Wilson or Anaya Smith going to step into that role? We know that you never thought it was going to be Devontae Parker, but that has passed us by.
Yes. That's the number 3. No, I did not.
And, we did the exercise last week of going through the depth on this team, and it sort of played out that on offense, it really does seem like they are top-heavy and star power laden, but depth is a question, especially for the weapons. And on defense, it's the opposite, right? Like there's more depth and maybe less oomph at the top. So let's look at every roster in the NFL, and would you trade essentially the entirety of the roster that you have at running back, wide receiver, and tight end for any of these other teams, right? And we're taking the quarterback out of it. We're taking the scheme out of it, all of that stuff. And this is also just for 2024. So from a roster building standpoint, how has Howie Roseman done compared to the rest of the league? We worked our way through it. I think we both ranked top 15, but we're going to talk about our top 10s here. It felt to me, I don't know how you felt, that like 15 or 16 teams would be like, okay, they've done a good enough job. They've cleared the bar of, I feel okay about our weapons. And some of them are just like little garbanzo beans. I mean, what are the Bills doing? But what was your sort of process to go through this?
Yeah, so what I did was, I have a spreadsheet in front of me, and I went through the wide receivers, running backs, tight ends of teams that I thought could conceivably be in my top 10. And I came up with 16 teams. So that's half the league there. Now, interestingly, there's one team I didn't have that you liked, and we'll get into that. And then from there, I wrote down the top 2 receivers, the options for number 3, because that shows you the depth, the options at running back, because that shows you the running back depth, the options at tight end. And
so
then
what mattered most to you when you were ranking?
Star power mattered most to me. Top heavy. Because I feel like depth is important, but how many guys, this might seem simplistic, how many guys would you draft for a fantasy football team, right? Let's take the example of, if you're drafting from the Eagles, you're probably not drafting Paris Campbell unless it's like a really deep league, but you might be drafting Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, the 2 running backs from Miami. So like I consider like players who you consider high caliber starters, and then blue chip players obviously giving an edge to that, and that's what made Minnesota harder for me to grade, because similar to the Eagles, there's more high quality players there, less depth. The challenge for me, and you outlined it well, was taking the quarterback out of it. So the example I would give there is Kansas City. That offense makes so much sense when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid with Xavier Worthy now and Hollywood Brown, like these 2 elite deep threats, or these 2 real fast receivers. Travis Kelce at tight end, Rashee Rice. But then if you say, all right, if you put a mid-level quarterback and a mid-level coach with that system, how are they? Whereas in Philadelphia, if you put a mid-level quarterback and a mid-level coach with A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, you'd feel real good about your weapons, right?
Sure.
So that was the challenge
I had Kansas
for me.
City at like 15.
Yeah, and I actually had Kansas City in my top 10, and then I had to shuffle it around because I had to kind of remove myself from that. So it was a fun exercise there, and I will also say, like I said this at the top, the impetus of this was T. Higgins going back to Cincinnati, and I've always said, like, the Eagles had the best receiver combination, although Cincinnati and Miami might say otherwise. And then when you look at like the totality of Cincinnati's weapons now,
some beat reporters for San Francisco might say otherwise as well.
Yeah, true. But then when you look at the totality of Cincinnati's weapons, you look at their third wide receiver, Coach Flynn. I'm sorry, because we are fans of Andre Yosevas here on this show.
Yeah, but their depth is much better than the Eagles.
You think so?
Yeah.
Irwin and Burton. I mean, you're not Jermaine Burton.
I'm not a Jermaine Burton guy, but I'm a Yosevas guy. Okay. And the rest, like I would take their.
You can't take Yosevas over like Paris Campbell right now, can you?
I think I would. Yes.
Taking the Coach Flynn part out of it, like just based. I mean, really. Interesting.
Yeah, I know Paris Campbell has proven that he can't be a difference-making player.
He has a 60-catch season. Okay, but then their running backs are Zach Moss and Chase Brown, and tight ends Mike Gesicki. Like so when you look at the totality of the weapons, they're top heavy, but they don't have the depth at some of these other spots. So the exercise actually, this was a fun exercise to do, and it proved more difficult for me than I anticipated.
All right. I would say for me, wide receiver matters most. Do you have at least 2 or 3 guys? Like running back, it's a nice to have and maybe a tiebreaker, but I am not moving the needle based on who your top running back is. It's just
interesting.
It's the NFL. I mean,
but there are exceptions there, like San Francisco.
Sure.
Yeah, you take that into account.
On the margins, it changes things.
I mean, to me, Christian McCaffrey changes things in a significant way. I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, or I don't want to tease too much of it. Saquon is a big part of how I view the Eagles. Aaron Jones is a big part of how I view the Vikings.
You love old running backs, huh?
I really like running backs who can be difference makers in the passing game.
Okay.
Right? I think Aaron Jones can be a difference maker in the pass. Like, to me,
all right, well, let's get to it.
So this, by the way, and that's also why this is really constructive, because it might be a rationalization from the Eagles, but when we talk about Saquon getting paid less than a third receiver, who would you rather have, Saquon Barkley or Darnell Mooney? Right? Like Saquon Barkley moves the needle for me more here than Darnell Mooney does in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but that's not really the same thing. Right? Like I would rather have, if you've got a better running back, but I've got slightly better wide receivers, I would rather have the slightly better wide receivers.
How much are you weighing the third receiver in there? Like I really factored in the top 2.
I'm just saying. Let's say.
Okay.
Well, let's get to it. Tell me who your number 10 is. Let's build some suspense as we work our way up the board.
Yeah, my number 10 here is the Detroit Lions.
Interesting. I have the Detroit Lions at number 6.
Okay. All right. So that's fun. And now,
so let's talk about the Lions.
Let's talk about the Lions.
David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, and then some,
and Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Smith, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Antoine Green at wide receiver. So not a ton of depth there. And then Sam Laporta and Brock Wright at tight end. I had them a little higher than you did because you want to talk about the passing game, like the juice of Jahmyr Gibbs, I think does make a difference here. Now, I would much rather have Jahmyr Gibbs than Aaron Jones.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say much rather, but yeah, I would rather have
at running back. Yeah.
I would rather have. Jamison Williams made this hard. Like, I really like Jamison Williams. I loved him coming out.
I'm probably a little too high on Jamison
Williams. I mean,
and
I'm the sucker in fantasy leagues where the head coach is like, this guy, this guy's about to have a breakout year. So you hear Dan Campbell say that, and I mean, spring training. I can't tell you if my baseball teams would be better every year.
I might be a little too high here.
Okay, 6.
But I like Laporta as well.
So I said this to Bo in the. Are we calling it the green room? What do we call the office? The office. Yeah. So
call it the green room. That's fine.
Yeah, the green room. I said I didn't have a hard time with my top 4 here. After that, it was wide open. Like, I can make an argument. There are teams I don't have ranked that if you said they're the 6th team, I would say, yes, I could make that justification, right?
Yeah, I had a clear top 5.
Okay, you had a clear top 5. Okay,
I found it a little bit difficult to wade through the rest of it. But I actually feel good about 6 through 11.
Interesting.
And then there's a little bit of a drop to 12 through 15.
Okay.
So tell me, well, I guess you don't need to say why you don't like Detroit at 10, but it's a good
yeah,
group.
So the challenge the reason they're not higher for me is because after St. Brown, who was proven to be one of the best receivers in the league. I see in the chat someone says St. Brown's overrated. It's longtime listener Rohit for Verma, right? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Rohit Verma.
Well, I'm not him, but that sounds about right.
Okay, you're better on pronunciations than I am.
I might have Rohit.
Rohit. I know he's corrected us on this before, so you're probably correct. I appreciate you watching. I don't think St. Brown's overrated. I think St. Brown's a really good player. I like Jameson Williams, but I have a hard time with Jameson Williams and Khalif Raymond and Donovan Peoples-Jones when there are other teams here who their top two receivers are like clearly entrenched as like among the best duos in the league. Yeah. That said, and this goes to the point that I've said, if you look at it not in terms of wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, but skill position player like Sam Laporta, you can make an argument top 3 tight end in the league, sure. Right? If you say he's your second pass catcher, he's your wide receiver 2, it might change the calculation.
It is Rohit.
And Rohit, I appreciate you watching.
Number 10 for me, Zach, is the team you talked about before, the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
So Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, obviously the star power at the top of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Brandon Powell, Jalen Naylor, Trent Sherfield, and then you go to tight end, TJ Hawkinson, Robert Tonyan, Josh Oliver. I would not have had them in the top 10 if it weren't for Justin Jefferson, obviously. I was very on the fence with I had the Jets at 11, and I was kind of like I prefer the entirety of the Jets, but I got to respect Justin Jefferson, and he alone makes them number 10 for me.
Yeah. So should I say where I have the Vikings? I have the Vikings 7th.
You have them 7th.
And
you like the star power.
I like the star power. Hawkinson now. The issue here, Hawkinson's coming off a major injury, right? But when Hawkinson's out there, when
Hawkinson's Hawkinson, he's Hawkinson.
Yes. And then you have Aaron Jones catching the ball. I liked what I saw from Addison last year. Okay. Yeah. I think that, and then Jefferson is elite. And so I give the edge to elite here.
All right. Before we keep going, Zach, you want to talk about elite? Well, doesn't get more elite than TrueMark Financial Credit Union. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become part owner, which means the profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. Better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options with all the same digital tools and tech to make our lives easier. TrueMark has local roots. We love that. Headquartered in Fort Washington, where Zach went to high school, with 24 branches in the Philly area. They serve our community and our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It is a total no-brainer. Head over to TrueMark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY. Federally insured by the NCUA, also known as the NCUA. Maybe the Rams will be making an appearance here soon.
Strolling through Wawa the other day.
Flex.
That's a flex? Yeah. I love Wawa.
I mean, anytime you're strolling, I feel like you're flexing.
Okay. Walking through Wawa. I was trying to come up with a better verb. Visiting Wawa. Being a patron of Wawa. What's
you don't want to be being the active verb. You want to stick with the active verb.
Yeah. But if I say patronizing Wawa,
good. I mean,
strolling through Wawa. Yeah. I wasn't like strutting through Wawa. It was kind of a slow stroll. You're looking at the options.
Kind of a flounce.
Strolling through Wawa. And what do I see? I see Olipop. And I say, this is a match made in heaven. It's a place that is locally, it's a cult favorite, Wawa, with a drink that has a cult following, Olipop. And the reason it does is because Olipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Olipop is a new kind of soda. There's only 2 to 5 grams of sugar, which is good because you want to keep the sugar down. But you want high fiber, right? It's good for your digestive system. 9 grams of fiber per can. That's what's awesome about Olipop. Did you know that 2 out of 3 Americans say they suffer from digestive issues, and 95% of Americans don't get the daily recommended amount of fiber? Well, Olipop is tackling both of these issues with a drink that tastes just like soda. And I mentioned Wawa. When you go into Wawa, you're seeing some of their most popular flavors, classic root beer, strawberry, vanilla, and you'll get that. If you go online, you can also find vintage cola and orange squeeze and classic grape and cream soda and cherry cola. You can find Dr. Goodwin. You can find lemon lime flavor. Use the code PHLY20 for 20% off your next Olipop order. The discount only applies to one-time orders, not to subscription orders. Olipop is sold online, drinkolipop.com or on Amazon, and it's available in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff.
All right, who's your number 9, Zachariah?
So my number 9 here, and I got to say, I'm kind of on the fly here. I might be changing some, right?
I know, I feel like I'm regretting having Detroit a little bit too high.
Yeah, and I'm regretting, I think I need to have the Rams higher up here, but maybe not.
You have the Rams number 9?
No, I don't have the Rams in my top 10, but I should have them in my top 10.
I have the Rams number 9. Go ahead.
Okay, I have the New York Jets number 9.
Okay, as I told you, I had them 11. So.
Okay. Yeah, so I have the Rams 11 here, so let's just say. Okay. So I don't feel as guilty there. Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and again, there's some projection here with Mike Williams because he's coming off injury, but at his high water mark, he's been a really productive player. There's some Malachi Corley.
Everywhere I go, I've been walking around all weekend. People keep stopping me and they're saying, "Hey, Bo, what do you think about this Malachi Corley situation?"
Yeah, people are liking Malachi Corley.
Palpable buzz.
I'm probably overweighting the running back here, but I'm a big Breece Hall
Xavier
guy.
Gibson, Alan Lazard.
Yeah, I'm a big Breece Hall guy. Okay, and
you're a big Braylon Allen guy too.
Big Braylon Allen guy, and Braylon Allen's a big Braylon Allen guy. I mean, you're talking about one of the youngest. I think he's the youngest guy in this draft as well, so he should be a big Bo Allen, a big Bo Wulf guy.
I'm Bo Wulf.
You're Bo Wulf. Yep.
Bo Allen probably a big fan too.
Yep, Wisconsin and a BAE and a BAE
and a B Allen.
That's true. Yep, that's true. Tyler Conklin at tight end, who gets the nod over C.J. Azuma. You know what?
Ruckert as well.
Had they drafted Brock Bowers in the first round, this would have gone way up for me.
Oh, God.
But no, I really like Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson's going to be awesome this year with Aaron Rodgers. But again, you're taking the quarterback out of it.
For 2 quarters?
Well, that's the thing. Garrett Wilson's been really productive the past 2 years without good quarterback play there. I like Mike Williams. Corley, I think Corley is an interesting piece. And especially when he's your third receiver. And then I think Breece Hall, I talk about I like backs who can catch the ball. That's what Breece Hall can do.
Yeah, I like the Jets. It's a very good group. I kind of do prefer them to the Vikings, so I had a 10, but I went with Justin Jefferson breaking the tie. So I do have the Rams at 9. Just on the strength of the combination of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
Oh yeah.
Now Cooper Kupp is 31. Right, and so
coming off injury,
So maybe you were right to have them out of the top 10, and maybe I am influenced by would Puka Nacua have had such a good year for a different team without Stafford and McVay? I've always liked Kyron Williams, Boston Scott, obviously, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson. Though as I read it out, I feel like maybe they do belong just on the outside of the top 10. Maybe I would go Jets over them.
I didn't quite understand the Colby Parkinson money that the Rams gave out. You didn't expect that take on the show.
No, I didn't. I appreciate that. I don't know that Colby Parkinson understood the Colby Parkinson money.
I mean, this is one of those things where it's similar to the Mahomes and Andy Reid conversation. Like, am I giving that now? Puka made those catches, right? And Cooper Kupp's been productive for a long time. How much of it's a function of that Sean McVay system? I don't have a good answer for you there, obviously. And then Matthew Stafford's a really good quarterback, but they should be in my top 10. I weighed them down a bit based on the offense that they're in.
All right, who do you got at number 8?
Number 8, and this might be a difference of opinion between the two of us. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow.
Yes.
Not even in my top 15. They're number 16 for me.
All right, so then let me sell you on this. Okay.
The Jags.
The Jags, they go out and they sign Gabe Davis.
Okay. You know, I mean, I invented Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I like Gabe Davis. They draft Brian Thomas in the first round.
Brian Thomas.
A receiver we both like. Christian Kirk is like a productive wide. He's shown he's as your number 2, number 3, really productive. I mean, Devin Duvernay, I like that signing. He gives you wide receiver depth there. I mean, if Duvernay was the number 3 receiver for the Eagles, I would call that an upgrade. I like Duvernay. Really like
Laurent de Duvernay Tardif.
I really like ETN, the running back, not the Eagles television network, which no longer exists. But they do a great job though at PhiladelphiaEagles.com. Yeah, and then Evan Ingram's proven to be a really
first round pick. Of course, you love him,
but he's proven to be a productive tight end.
Yeah.
So I think they have a good group of offensive weapons there, and the Brian Thomas pick. Again, like I'm probably there's projection there. I like Thomas coming out, and when you put Thomas with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, I think it makes a lot of sense in that group.
That's a good it is a good group of depth, but there's no ace.
There's no
wide
ace.
Receiver,
sure,
right? And there's none of those weapons is a true ace.
That's true.
If it were, right?
I mean, 2 wide receivers who were overpaid in free agency, Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why they would not have been in my top 10 and weren't in my top 10. My number 8, Zach, is the Seattle Seahawks. Do you have the Seahawks in your top 10?
I do not.
Really?
But I do like those weapons for sure.
I mean, I feel like the Seahawks are in pretty good shape here.
You're right.
You know, Kenny Walker, Zach Charbonnet is a pretty good duo of running backs. Noah Fant is not going to knock your knees off as a tight end, but
first round pick
done. But DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, even your boy Laviska Shenault and D. Eskridge down the depth chart.
That's a good point.
I mean,
both running backs.
Both running backs are good. I love Metcalf, and I feel like even if Lockett is a little bit declining, you've got Smith and Jigba on the come. I would feel pretty good about having the Seahawks weapons.
You know what? Color me convinced. They should be on here. They should be on here. I like. You don't have to sell me on Smith on Smith and Jigba, a 2-headed backfield of Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, obviously DK, big DK fans. Tyler Lockett is coming down, but Tyler Lockett plays well, and you got Laviska Shenault. And again, we're not factoring on offensive systems. I think this is an offense that's going to be better with Ryan Grubb. I like Grubb's offense a lot at Washington.
So we know that your 7 is Minnesota. My 6 is Detroit. I am guessing that my 7 is your 6.
Probably not, because you're going to say wow about my 6, maybe.
Okay. My 7 is the Chicago Bears.
They're my 5.
Really? Okay. The Chicago Bears, have they done a good job just from a weapon standpoint. I don't know that they have done a good job roster building over the course of the last few years, but Caleb Williams coming in and getting a chance. I mean, he's got to be in better shape in terms of weapons than any recent high-drafted quarterback, right? DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze with Tyler Scott and Velus Jones. I mean, this is the same think tank that drafted Velus Jones in the 3rd round, so let's not give him too much credit. But DeAndre Swift, overpaid, but that's fine. Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, and then Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. That's a lot of high-quality players and depth spread it out. It's a really nice group, and I would not argue so much with you having them even higher at number 5.
I love Keenan Allen, love DJ Moore from that way, and then Odunze was I think I was a bit higher on him in the draft than you were. DeAndre Swift, I like him. I think that they paid him a bit much there, but we're not looking at contracts here. Cole Kmet, that is a good group. And if Caleb Williams is who I think, then that's why I have them in. I think this can be a really good offense, but I think the 3 receivers are why I have them number 5. Real quick, did you see the behind the scenes clip of the Falcons and Bears on the clock over the weekend?
No, but I saw that there was an offer of a future 4th to move up 1 spot.
Yes, similar to
what are they doing?
Similar to what the Eagles did with the Bears a year ago to ensure that they could get Jalen Carter. Right. What's Atlanta?
Very stupid on both sides.
No, I mean, I get it from, like, at the time, you don't know that I get it from Chicago because you didn't know the Falcons were going to take a quarterback. That's a spot where a team could, there was rumored that the Bears liked the Dunze. A team could jump them, similar to what Howie did when they wanted Jalen Carter. They gave up a fourth just so they can ensure that they drafted him. If you're Atlanta, clearly Chicago's not trading up to get a quarterback.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah. They're not trading.
Wild.
They're not going to trade for that pick and then turn around and trade for someone who wants a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Arthur Blank probably should have fired Scott Fitterer. That's not
No, it's Terry Fontenot.
Yeah. Why am I thinking Scott Fitterer?
He was with Carolina before, but it's Terry Fontenot.
It's Terry Fontenot. He should have fired him on the spot.
I mean, and not just that.
To turn that down, it's a free pick.
And besides besides the free pick part of it, you're going to get your quarterback for a little bit less one spot later, like financially,
absolutely,
because it's slotted. So you're probably saving. If you talk about the contract value of a quarterback, you're saving. I don't know what the exact number is.
Gonna read in the
over
chat.
$1 million. Oh, Reed, thanks, buddy.
Fantastic.
Appreciate you watching.
Absolutely wild that they would turn that down.
Yeah, it befuddled me.
I also do think it was silly for Chicago to even offer that, but
did you think it was silly for the Eagles to do it with Jalen Carter a year ago?
I mean, silly is maybe
it's a little bit
different. Well, I
you
know,
want to ensure no one trades together.
Well, I know. I understand why you do it.
I'm not mansplaining you the situation. I'm explaining the justification. I'm not. Yeah, I know you know that, but this is. Yeah.
Okay. So who do you have at 6 then?
At 6, Marissa. I love you, Marissa. The Cleveland Browns.
Really?
Yes.
I have them at 14.
Okay. That's why this is fun.
Does that mean,
who
are you not going to have in your?
There's probably an omission that's not good here.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I apologize if there's an omission here. We'll get to that, and I will update it because we are kind of workshopping this together.
Okay.
I think Amari Cooper's a stud. I think Amari Cooper's a legit number 1. I don't think he's like a number 2. I think he's a number 1. He showed that last year.
He's not a 1A.
I think Amari Cooper's a 1A. I think Amari Cooper's awesome.
Okay. Wow. Cleveland at 6.
You trade for Jerry Jeudy. Okay. I like a Jerry Jeudy.
Okay. Just because he was a first-round pick?
Elijah Moore. Okay. Nick Chubb. I know Nick Chubb's coming off a major injury. Nick Chubb is awesome running back. You got David Njoku at tight end.
Yeah, these are a lot of guys that you specifically love.
So again,
Jerry Jeudy, by the way, never had a 1,000-yard season in
I know.
4 years.
Has had a 60 catch.
He's had 160 catch season for you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, this is probably a little too high. I admit it. This is too high. I say this on the spot. I said going into this, there were 4. I was confident in my top 4. And then after my top 4, I kind of felt like, I think I said if my number 6 was like 15, I wouldn't argue with that. And I had a hard time ranking it after that. And that's why this is constructive. A matter of fact, I should probably come back tomorrow with my updated rankings after talking it out with you. But I like this wide receiver combo. I'm probably giving too much weight to Nick Chubb, but Nick Chubb's awesome. And then Njoku really came on last year at tight end.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's spicy, but good for you.
We're trying to get some.
Yeah, that's good.
It's June 17th. It's going to be 100 degrees out this week. Like, what we're trying to do is I don't want to say hot takes, but we're trying to get it. And look, Michael Dunn's blocking for these guys. So,
yeah, we have to divorce that.
You have to divorce that, I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so you have Chicago 5. My number 5 is the Cincinnati Bengals.
I did not have them in my top 10.
Really?
That's the team I did not have.
On purpose?
I said this at the top. I love their 2 wide receivers. After that, I was underwhelmed by the other. I'm looking at the totality of it. I'm saying, who are the 5 guys that you're throwing out there?
I know, but
you're basically going, who are your 2 best receivers?
I am not doing that, and that's not what I'm doing. That's why I have differences than you in the back end of the top 10.
A big Gesicki guy?
I think Jamar Chase is probably the second best receiver in the NFL, and that carries a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's in the top.
Sure.
You know, he's a difference maker. Zach Moss, Chase Brown, that's underwhelming, but it's running back. I think their wide receiver depth is better than the Eagles, with like Jermaine Burton and Yosavash and Trenton Irwin. Gesicki doesn't move the needle for me a ton.
Yeah.
Higgins I'm like not super high on Higgins.
Going back to the draft, that's the case.
And maybe that's not true. You got to take that shot.
There's documentation of this.
Yeah.
You said he was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
No, Zach. You're making me pull a Zach here. I said that I didn't like the fit with the Eagles because they had just drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, and he was a similar type of player.
You did say that.
I said that. I said I liked him more than I expected.
Okay,
and
correct.
he seems like a good prospect. I didn't like him for the Eagles.
You did say that. As I said going into this, I thought Cincinnati was going to be my.
Can't trust a word you said.
I thought Cincinnati was going to be in my top 5.
I think I might have them a little too high.
They should be in my top 10. They should be in my top 10. Claire, you're right.
I'd rather have Cincinnati than the Rams. Although you didn't even have the Rams in your top 10.
I would rather have Cincinnati than Cleveland.
Jaguars.
I would rather have Cincinnati than Cleveland. I admit that. And Cleveland's my 6.
You just said Cleveland's 6.
Because this is the thing. I'm looking at the overall. I'm not waiting.
I know, but certain things matter more.
Well, that's where I messed up, or I shouldn't say messed up. I have wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, running back, tight end, and I'm looking at the overall.
It's very funny to be. We're presenting this as our rankings, and both of us are being like, "Yeah, I didn't do a good enough job here." Right?
Yeah, this was the challenge I had. I was sitting there at a coffee shop this morning, going through all this, and I went into this thinking Cincinnati, like as you can see, before I even put the depth charts down, I put the teams that I thought were at the top: Minnesota, Cincinnati, Houston. I put Cincinnati 2 because I thought they were going to be there. And then as I'm looking at it, I'm like, these are the running backs. This is the tight end.
This is interesting, Zach, though, because it means that we have the same top 4, which I guess is not a huge surprise. I'm curious to see how we order them. But before we do that, let's talk about our friends at BetParx Sportsbook, because today's episode is brought to you by the BetParx Sportsbook app. Get in the zone with the BetParx Sportsbook app. The money is in the moments. I'll tell you what. Oof. Those missed putts by Rory yesterday. I put a little Lechuga on Rory heading into the round. It was feeling good. Just a bummer. And then Bryson. Guy hits like 4 fairways all day long. No penalty. Ridiculous. Anyway, win big with all-day action. Win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. Must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Speaking about missed putts in golf tournaments, I hope you don't miss putts, but I hope you go to the PHLY first annual Liberty Open, July 13th at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey. It's a scramble format, so you can sign up as a single, a foursome, or you can even sponsor a hole. There's 18 holes with a cart. There's tournament gifts and teas prizes. Taste of Philly dinner. What's better than that? I was just corresponding with a listener today about my favorite spots in Philly.
Corresponding, nice.
Yeah, my verbs are on point today, right? Taste of Philly
writing
dinner.
in a fountain pen?
No, I sent a DM. Yeah, I told him for water ice, you gotta go to John's. Anyways, Taste of Philly dinner and post-round ceremony at the Pavilion. Unlimited giraffe beer for 2 hours post-round, and contest and team prizes at the course. But this is just part of what makes PHLY special, because you know me, I love good writing. And if you want good writing, you want good reporting, you go to allphly.com. Next week, it's draft week, and you're not going to find better coverage of the NBA draft or of the Sixers in the NBA draft and the Flyers in the NHL draft than on allphly.com. Also, I should say, speaking of the draft, with the PHLY Sixers NBA Draft Show live at Garage North in Fishtown. The Sixers crew break down the NBA Draft live at Garage North. Podcasts and live shows on every team every day at allphly.com. Post-game shows, premium written content for members at allphly.com. 20% off events. Great merchandise for all teams. I saw today. You should check it out. We have new merchandise out for the Phillies. Now, you can check that out on allphly.com. You get a free shirt when you become a diehard member, so make sure you do that. And there's a members-only Discord, the PHLY Lounge. I was scrolling through it this weekend. They said that I don't fully understand the concept of the customer always being right. It's the customer's always right in the matter of taste. They say not that the customer is right in every opinion. Anyways, you can find spirited conversation just like
I
that.
don't agree with that either.
On the PHLY Discord lounge, which is for members only. Head over to allphly.com now and join the best sports fans in the city.
So if they say that you don't understand it, does that make them right?
No, they say I don't give the complete expression. It's in matters of taste, not like in everything. So I've quoted Rudyard Kipling quite a bit on this. When all men count with you, but none too much, right? I don't overweigh one opinion over another, but I listen to every opinion. I appreciate, by the way, in the iTunes comments, make sure you leave iTunes comments, okay? There's a chef who weighed in. Long-time listener, chef at a great restaurant, he says, or she. I don't want, it could be he or she, for 25 years, and said that they never tinker with your food when it gets sent back, and they actually appreciate it because it's like any feedback on your work.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's on the iTunes comments. Some of the iTunes.
They appreciate food getting sent back?
Yeah, according to the
Interesting.
yeah,
okay.
Because it shows that you're like a discerning. No, if it's for like an actual reason, like if you're like the duck is this color, the duck is a little gray for my liking. Was that the color you used, gray?
Yeah.
Or brown, gray?
Yeah. I mean that
okay.
duck
had
already been dead. It did not need to be killed again.
Yeah, okay. So in any event, I check that out. I check the YouTube comments out. If there's Reddit comments, I check that out. I wish that there's.
How do you find the time?
If there are message boards talking about us, that I try to find that. I go through all the live comments. Yeah, you want people to feel like their opinions valued. Emails, I have such a backlog of emails because
you're spending so much time reading comments.
No, because with this new job, it's not new anymore. We're 10 months in. I'm spending so much time in the car. I used to have like time devoted each day to responding to all my emails. Now there's like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the car each day.
So maybe exchange some of those Reddit comments
for just responding to direct emails. Yeah. So in any event, I appreciate all the feedback. Okay. But we have
make sure that you are liking the video and subscribing and all that good stuff, and evangelizing the show. All right, our top four. I imagine we have the same group of teams here. I wonder what the order will look like. My number 4, Zach, and I really, really considered having them over the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, I kind of still want to push them ahead. And that is the Houston Texans.
Yep, my number 4 as well.
Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. And what I really appreciate about this is also Noah Brown, Robert Woods, John Mechie III, your boy. That is so deep, and it is in direct contrast to the Eagles. Obviously, I would rather have A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith than any two of those Houston Texans receivers. I think I'm a little bit skittish of how much was C.J. Stroud doing the heavy lifting for Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Joe Mixon, Dameon Pierce. I would rather have Saquon Barkley. Dalton Schultz.
I like
probably
Dalton
not
Schultz,
quite as good as Dallas Goedert, but Dallas Goedert has had trouble staying healthy. I would rather have the Texans group of wide receivers probably, and I guess the Eagles other positions move it ahead for me. It's a coin flip. If you're guaranteeing me health, obviously I would rather have the Eagles, but I feel like the Texans are in. They have created a roster that answers more questions if injuries happen than the Eagles have.
Well said. I don't need to echo I don't need to just say in a different way what you just said. What jumps out to me here is the depth. That if you're talking about strength and numbers, I mean they are top heavy. Like Diggs has proven to be one of the most productive receivers in the NFL. But like you mentioned, going 6 deep or 5 deep at wide receiver also makes him a good trade candidate. We both liked Dameon Pierce in the past. Now he's your second back behind Joe Mixon. Devin Singletary had a good year last year, but I've always liked Joe Mixon as a runner. I think Dalton Schultz is underrated as a tight end. So I think there's a good group here, and that's why they're my number 4.
All right. Who do you have at number 3?
Number 3, I have your Philadelphia Eagles.
Interesting. I thought you might have them higher.
I originally went into this thinking they were number 1.
I also have them at number 3.
Okay. I went into this thinking they were number 1. And Because look,
I think we can just sort of unpack who's 2 and who's 1, and then let's talk about it.
Yes. Okay.
I have Miami 2 and San Francisco 1.
I have Miami 2 and San Francisco 1.
Interesting. Okay, so we
And
have
by the
the
way,
same
Bo and I
top
did this
4.
independently.
Yeah,
So
I think that's pretty clear with your
Yes.
Cleveland at 6.
Yep.
Um,
Jeez, I'm never gonna let that down.
San Francisco, I was actually I didn't want to have them at number 1.
No, me
right?
neither.
And I am a little bit bearish on their prospects this season. Like, they had the long haul to the Super Bowl. McCaffrey had all those touches. Debo takes all these hits. But I would rather have A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith than Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. But after that, Juwan Jennings has proven that he can be a real player.
Yep.
Ricky Pearsall, not my favorite prospect in the draft. I wouldn't have drafted him in the first round, but we're still talking about a day 2 caliber player. Even like Jacob Cowing is a guy that I like.
Yep.
George Kittle, Dallas Goedert is, you'd probably rather have Kittle just a little bit.
But you'd definitely rather have Kittle a lot.
Well, but he's also injury prone.
Sure.
That moves the needle a little bit. And yeah, like Christian McCaffrey is better than Saquon Barkley, and they've also got Elijah Mitchell.
Yep.
Vince's boy Isaac Guerrero. Like it is a deeper group, and that's why I think you have to have them ahead. And then Miami, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, very comparable, I think, to AJ Brown, DeVonta Smith. Obviously, different types of players, but I think you could argue either way.
Yep.
And their depth is better. Odell Beckham, even like Braxton Berrios is just like a better version of Britton Covey. I like Malik Washington. Their running back position is deeper. I would rather have Goddard than Jonnu Smith, but
yeah. But Jonnu's an upgrade there, tight end, I think.
For what they had before.
Yeah, they had Dalton Smythe, and now he's your number 2.
Right. Durham.
Durham Smythe, yeah.
He might as well be Dalton Smythe. He doesn't need to have his first name.
D Smythe, yes.
So that's why I have it that way.
Yeah, good point. I love Miami's options.
I made a point, but
A-Chain and Mostert, and then Jalen Wright at running back.
Yeah.
Right. So they just have so many players there. And again, both these situations, we say we're going to take away the offensive system. Like, I imagine San Francisco and Miami to a certain extent, they're buttressed by that offensive system. That said, Tyreek Hill would be great wherever he is. Jalen Waddle, I think Jalen Waddle's a really good player. A-Chain's really fast. Like, does the system have something to do with it? Yeah, but he was a dynamic player coming out of Texas A&M. And then when you talk about San Francisco, if you're just looking at blue chip players on this list, Christian McCaffrey is one of the blue chip players on this list. If there's 10 of them, Christian McCaffrey is one of them. And what he does in the passing game, what he does in the running game. Ricky Pearsall, neither one of us loved him in the draft, but you're still talking about you're still talking about a first round pick, even if he was overdrafted. He's a quality. He would be the number 3 receiver on the Eagles. I actually think Juwan Jennings, like you said, would be the number 3 receiver on the Eagles. He's their 4th receiver here. So, yeah, the overall depth is why I give it. And interestingly, I went into this exercise thinking I was going to take the Eagles number 1 because DeVonta, AJ, Saquon, Dallas. That might be the best 4 in this group.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting, right? Like, if you were, let's just take these 4 teams.
Yep.
San Francisco, Miami, Philadelphia, Houston. If you were just drafting the players from those teams, who would you like? It probably goes Tyreek Hill 1, then AJ Brown 2.
Yep, that's how I would do it.
Right. And then, I mean, DeVonta Smith is not coming off the board that much later.
Yeah, I would probably go McCaffrey 3, but yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then it comes down to preference, I guess, on Waddle, Debo, Ayuk, and DeVonta. I think DeVonta's over all of the Houston guys.
I agree.
Then
over Diggs as well?
I think so.
Okay.
At this point. But then, like, these other 3 teams, you would take their 4th or 5th or even 6th receivers in some cases over what the Eagles have at number 3. I don't know. It's an interesting reflection of the way that the roster is built.
Yeah, and that's why development for the Eagles' depth, like, this conversation is totally different. If Paris Campbell looks like the Paris Campbell who was a 2nd-round pick and a 60-catch player 2 years ago, this conversation is totally different if Johnny Wilson comes on the scene and is like
Puka Nacua.
I mean, that's ambitious, but you know what I mean? If he's like a 30, 40-catch guy, if the Eagles make a trade for a 3rd wide receiver, that instantly changes things, right? That if it's like a video game where the overall rating goes up quite a bit. If Will Shipley is a solid, number 2 running back, right?
I don't think that changes much.
All right, but I'm saying like,
But
like Elijah Mitchell, and whether it's A-Chain or Mostert, that's better than what the the Eagles don't have. Let's say Gainwell's their second back. You're still taking the second back on Miami and San Francisco over the second back on the Eagles. So that's all a way of saying that I think depth is why I go with San Francisco over Miami and Miami over the Eagles. But I also feel strongly that blue chip players matter, and the Eagles have 3 blue chip guys here. If you still think Saquon's a blue chip player, and there's teams on this list who don't have any.
Are there teams that jumped out to you as you did this exercise in terms of, maybe the Eagles could trade for one of their depth guys?
Well, Houston, we've talked about that. Who
would you trade for, Robert Woods or John Mechie?
I would try to trade for John Mechie.
Okay.
Do you think they'd probably be more apt to trade Robert Woods?
I would imagine so, but
yeah. That's now you had a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, you know who was interesting? New England, who they don't have any good receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or definitely good receivers, but they have a lot of mediocre receivers. Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, who they drafted, Javon Baker, who they drafted, Juju Smith-Schuster, KJ Osborne, Tyquan Thornton. That's 7 guys. They're not. I mean, they can't keep 7 guys, right? So I don't know. Would you be interested in trading for Juju? What insult to injury for James Bradbury?
Yeah, I mean, there's name appeal there, but he's been a good player. He's still young.
Right? Could you get Kendrick Bourne? Would you trade for? Does Tyquan Thornton move the needle? Probably not, but that's an interesting possibility. We've bandied about the Panthers, second and third round draft busts, and Mingo and Terrace Marshall Jr. Maybe one of those guys could get plucked free. Denver, Tim Patrick move the needle for you.
What about the Chiefs?
Interesting.
With Sky Moore in a change of scenery situation? And now you could say, look,
that would intrigue me.
If he hasn't clicked in Kansas City, is he going to click here?
Right, of course, if he can.
Right. I mean,
sure.
He had Mahomes and Andy Reid, but that's an offense that added Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. So players they've been working with near the top of the depth chart are now obviously lower down there.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And then, I guess that's about it.
Who were you now? So we mentioned some of the, I said I should have had Seattle higher. I'm curious some of these teams that I also considered. Baltimore and
I didn't have Baltimore in my top 15.
You did not. Interesting.
No.
Let's discuss that real quick.
I don't know. I mean, I like Zay Flowers, but
okay.
Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, that's not moving the needle for me.
Mark Andrews is like a wide receiver too.
Nice.
I
was surprised at how much I like Tennessee. I had Tennessee at 12.
that was the team. Okay, because
Ridley, Hopkins, Tyler Boyd is a good top 3. Burks has not been good, but as a 4th receiver.
A lot of olds there. You're not an old guy.
Well, for one season.
True.
Westbrook Akinney and even Kyle Phillips, those are not terrible guys. Chico Okonkwo and then Tony Pollard, that's a fine. And Tyjae Spears, that's a fine guys on the outside.
That's fair. I need to mention this team.
I have Green Bay at 13.
I was wondering about Green Bay.
I love a lot of young upside.
Yes. Yeah, I was wondering about Green Bay. We'll see that week 1. Atlanta was the team that I had a hard time sliding.
I was expecting you at some point to make a case for Atlanta.
I mean, Kyle Pitts. You give me Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I like Drake London. You add Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore to that mix. Those are that gives you legit speed there. Their backfield combination, obviously with Bijan and Algier, is really strong. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
I think so.
Okay. So that was one that I had thrown in the mix, and then and like I said, I had a hard time slotting Kansas City because I couldn't divorce. Or I had to divorce Mahomes and Andy Reid from that.
Well, you found Emily.
I'm never divorcing Emily. I love her.
No, I think you found Emily.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Rasheed Rice, Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Sky Moore. There's, obviously Travis Kelce. He's your number 1 receiver. There's a lot to like in Kansas City. I'd probably under.
Would Buffalo be 32?
Well, the wide receivers are underwhelming.
It's tough.
Read off those wide
Shakir,
receivers.
Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler.
Yeah, I still think New England's 32, but
yeah, maybe I guess so.
As this overall group.
Yeah. The Chargers are pretty bad.
That's true, actually. Not
Josh
tight ends.
Palmer, Quentin Johnson, Lad McConkey.
Yeah, you're not a tight end guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That was fun.
That was fun.
Good
Good Monday show. I enjoyed it.
Good Monday show. Back tomorrow at noon. Noon all week except for Thursday. Thursday we're going to do an afternoon show, 3 or 4 o'clock, probably 4 o'clock. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks to Bree. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.